88% of the work week is spent communicating, so it's important your team does it well. Enter Grammarly. Grammarly's AI helps teams communicate clearly the first time. It shows you how to make words resonate with your audience, helps with brainstorming, and lets you instantly create and revise drafts in just one click. Join over 70,000 teams and 30 million people who use Grammarly to move work forward. Go to grammarly.com/enterprise to learn more. Grammarly, enterprise-ready AI.
Your mom is a podcast. Your mom is a podcast. Your mom is a podcast. Your mom is a podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Your Mom is a Check-In. This is an episode that we do between episodes to really just have an excuse to see what Sandeep is up to and talk about the previous episodes. Yeah, and then
Just me.
This is Your Mom is a Sandeep, and
She always has been and always will be.
the show regularly is a conversation between somebody that we admire, respect, or inspired by, or who we think is the kind of person we'd love our kid to grow up to be like.
After.
Yeah, the person that we drool over.
Mhm.
And then we talk to their moms and kind of compare and contrast to really figure out how we raise better people and maybe don't make some of the mistakes that previous generations have made, break some cycles, create some new trauma cycles.
That's what we're
do
trying to
things.
do.
I want a fresh trauma
I want it to
cycle.
be my traumas. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't want it to carry over.
I don't want a
want it to
hand-me-down trauma.
Yeah, no.
wanna
I don't want
start
your
fresh.
third-rate, rough
Your
around the
thrift
edges,
store
used
drama?
drama. Well, yeah.
What's going on? What's your week been like? I know. So let's start with how your dad's doing.
Dad's he's just doing. He's still going. We figured some things out, which is good. We like there's the whole concept of even if it's bad news, any news is better for your literally your central nervous system than no news at all, and not knowing, knowing even if it's bad news
Is helpful.
is healthier for your body than not knowing, even if it's bad news. So things are going okay. He's gonna get himself a pacemaker, become part robot. He's gonna be robot Dada.
Cyborg Dada.
If you know anything about my dad, he is not excited about. This is not okay with him. But he's to his credit, evolving. I tried to help reframe for him, because his whole thing is au natural, right? He just wants to do everything. He wants to solve everything through pranayama and breathing exercises. And I was like, Dad, he's a pretty spiritual guy. So I'm like, can you see the God in the confluence of events and history of man, how much humans had to evolve, grow, and learn off of each other to create a pacemaker? Isn't there God in that whole journey of being able to
Wow.
use natural resources throughout the land, God given, so to speak, to put it all together so that you can go and control the beats of someone's heart to help keep them alive? Isn't that wildly godly and amazing and cosmic? And I think that maybe helped a little bit. I think it gave him pause a little bit. So I don't know. Well,
That's a very cool way to think about it. But that kind of actually brings us to this conversation with Joel a little bit, in that we did talk about vaccines and what that means, and how do we, with integrative medicine, how do we integrate technology or modern advances with things that are ancient, like our bodies?
Mm-hmm. And, things that don't show up in a peer-reviewed double-blind study. I think that's but show up in the Vedas, and I think that's a real challenge for, and I feel like this has probably been historically a challenge where we're constantly battling over whether the new technology is, something that like whether the intervention of some new technology, be it medicine or vaccines or pacemaker or whatever, does that do more harm than good in the long run? Like, like we don't always know because it's new, and so you can't get the data necessarily to figure that out. Some of it is sort of intuition.
And I have a weird distrust, not weird, maybe logical, maybe everybody has this, a distrust in things that are for profit above
Totally.
things that are just benevolent, which how could an industry be? How could anything survive without a budget? Like, how do we survive without getting paid? Even though our intentions are good, this is also a necessity. So it's like this, it's about like, I guess, when does it become greedy or when does it become about the money over the purpose, which is brings us to so many topics. One is the election. We had a Trump win, but so many states voted to protect abortion rights. And one of the things that makes me think about is, or just, the way that I think people voted was mostly to protect their finances. There's this idea that like the economy was better under Trump, so that must be Trump's doing, which is not actually how economy works. It's the years previous to that set up a good economy, and then the pandemic sunk it, and all these things. And you can probably speak to this better.
We're a very like fire your coach kind of mentality, like whatever's happening now, whoever's in charge right now is going to bear the brunt of it. And like, kind of same thing, like, Trump getting having COVID happen on his watch too. Like, not that I think he handled any of that well at all. It's like there are just external forces that, like, just the way we attribute gas prices to presidents when like they have almost nothing to do with it.
Yes.
It's just sort of so there was a fomenting feeling in this country. I mean, like the data point that always hits me is just that 75% of people said they did not like this country, the direction this country was headed. That's that's what showed up in the polls, no matter, even if they were for Kamala or for Biden or whatever. They just, that's 3/4 of Americans felt like we were on the wrong track, and that was going to be really challenging for an incumbent party to overcome, no matter what. And especially with a candidate and the way that whole handoff went down, and at the last minute, and you have Kamala, who I think is a great candidate, but is in this really awkward, funky position where she can't distance herself from Biden's record. So she has to sort of own it. She can't sit there as a sitting vice president and be like, well, I would do this economy better. She has
I had nothing to do with this. Yeah.
Yeah. She can't really do that. She's, and I think that people felt that insincerity too. Like, and I don't mean that as she's a disingenuous person, but that she just really could not undermine the sitting president as acting vice president and go out and campaign as a candidate of change. So people, they could feel her being guarded in her responses to things, or not taking chances and not going out and like kind of reining in tin walls and like all these things that she sort of felt like she had to do to
that's also
play it safe and run the campaign.
What I saw when Hillary ran, it's like a lot of like what it means to be a female candidate is like, how do I rein myself in so that I am likable to all? And I think she actually did a really good job of being authentic and sincere a lot of the time, and letting her guard down, and not being robotic, and not being too coached, and all these things. But I think honestly, the biggest thing was that people voted for the protection of their income and wallets, and I don't blame them. I 100% do not blame them. And listening to this episode with Dr. Gator, I'm like, a lot of our health is connected to our monetary success. And
like, you mean access to health?
Access to health, one.
Yeah.
Eating organic foods, homeschooling our kids. Like, there are things that are tied to privilege, and like specifically financial privilege. And so people are always trying to just like get one ring up the ladder, trying to just get a little bit more successful, a little bit more privileged, honestly. And I think that was a big part of the decision. And just to like step away from the election, because I'm sure everyone's already so full on election content. The thing that really came up for me, and I think you and I talked about this after the conversation with Dr. Gator, was some frustration I feel around the pressure that's put on families to show up with providing the best snacks while also being working parents, while also figuring out how to be there instead of starting daycare at 6 months or 1 year or a year and a half.
And
like
sometimes taking care of their parents and
and being the sandwich generation. And then also, how do you do that on a single family income? And so just touching on the government again is like, what responsibility does the government have to make this possible for us? One of the things that I really hope changes, and I'm not sure we'll see it in, while our kids are small, is can we just be responsible for food? Can the government just be responsible for better food? Like, does Monsanto and Bayer need to exist as one company? Like, does no one see why that's a problem? Or does no one see it? I feel like a conspiracy theorist when I talk about this, but like that our food makes people sick, and that there is a for-profit industry of sick
to medicate
people.
them.
And then, one of the kids' parents that my son goes to school with works in basically like bankruptcy rehabilitation, and maybe that's not the exact words, but he works a lot with courses, like training courses for people who have filed bankruptcy. And I asked a million questions about that, and he said the hardest is when it's like an 80-year-old who has medical bankruptcy, and medical bankruptcy should be not a thing. Already it's a little bit of like a joke, like, oh, you want me to start a GoFundMe to pay for my medical bill? I literally like put that joke in a sketch one time because it is the craziest thing that we have to do in America
all the time. Yeah.
That we do all the time. But then to do it when you're 80, when you have to like go through some insurance website.
My parents can't even log on to YouTube. You want them to run a Kickstarter? Like, this is insane.
And then you want them to go on the insurance website to opt in and out of certain things and make sure that they're on top of bills that are paperless. And
no, it's crazy. The system is it's like the movie Brazil. It's just like layers of bureaucracy. It's so hard to like get straight answers from. It's such a mess. And yeah, I think you do. It does sort of beg that question of like, someone please fix this. Someone who is who is in power, please do something about this. Someone care about this. And I think that's part of why, I hate to say it, like the thing that Trump does better than the Dems ever do is like be authentic. Even though I think he's
charismatic.
I think he's cruel. I would never want to leave him in a room with my niece alone.
Or my son. Or me.
Or like, I wouldn't want my son watching him and being like, that's how I should lead. Like, that's not at all. But I think that what people sort of are drawn, he just like, speaks his mind and blah, blah, blah. And just kind of, he taps into some anger, grievance, whatever, and then voices it without a filter. And I think that like it's somehow igniting 68 million people to who also feel aggrieved, or to focus on their grievances and to feel them more, to get inspired to go out and support this guy. So like I get like these frustrations that have just been building about how out of control we feel. I think as a collective nation. There's
Mhm.
just people just feel like stuff is not in their control. The people who go and shop week to week and are on a budget are seeing like, I can't afford this grocery bill for my family of 4 or
Mhm.
whatever it is.
Mhm.
Like this is and what do I do about this? Do I feed them less?
Mhm.
I feel like I can't work anymore. I'm already working 2.5 jobs. Like I
Mhm.
can't do any more. And then yes, you see Instagrams where like you gotta stop feeding them mac and cheese, and
Mhm.
you're like probably just going out of your friggin' mind. And so where they're just desperate, I think, to get help, for someone to care and help them.
Yeah, what I wish someone like Dr. Gator or somebody that has a really strong presence on this issue would do is initiate some kind of campaign. Like, not that he needs to run for anything, but like, wouldn't it be cool if we could put pressure on government in this way? I'm sure there are a lot of groups already trying. That's the other thing. It all just feels so hard to try.
I think right now we're also in a period of like, oh, it's getting cold and everyone's sad and we want to all like, I just want to like burrow. I want to turn into like a little hedgehog and just
Yeah.
like form into a little ball and stay there. I think we're all gonna, which is, I think maybe we need to take the week or two to do that and then get up and move. But
The
yeah.
day after the election, I took the apps off my phone. Like I'm like, I don't need any news for a few weeks. Like there's
You like
nothing I
social
can
media? What apps?
social media apps. Yeah, I took the Instagram and the TikTok away. And I took my toys away.
Yeah, you took your
And
toys away. You
I
don't deserve these toys.
I do not
No
deserve these
toys for you.
toys. I didn't phone bank hard enough. This is my fault. Natural cause and effect. I take my toys away.
Yeah.
And this is bad self-parenting. But no, actually it was a way of like self-soothing, because I could see myself going into hole after hole after hole being like, what did the men between ages and 24 vote, and why didn't they, and why did they, and what, and there's nothing I can do about it right now.
Right.
And I just need to spend some time with the people that are in front of me. And actually, the thing that has been most beneficial in these past few weeks is seeing friends in real life.
Oh, for
Nothing
sure.
has been so medicinal to me as getting
Mhm.
coffee, having long conversations with my husband, which is my favorite thing in the world to do, and having long conversations with my friends over food, or just a phone call. You're on a long drive, call a friend and say, it's like, I'm like, don't listen to our podcast, call a friend. But there, but anyway, I just have found that like the antidote to the pain has been love. What a concept.
It reminds me of that Jim Jeffries bit about that, where he's like, this is going to be the wokest thing you'll ever hear me say. And he goes on to this whole thing about how yeah, the only way to defeat fear is love. And he's like, he's like, and that's absolutely true. And it's also so hard. Like, it's just so hard because
Mhm.
the results are not immediate. They take a long time. Fire with fire feels better because you get to burn shit and it burns real quick. like love, you have to like, oh, I hope that like this sacrifice that I made inspires them 5 years from now to make a similar self-sacrifice.
Yeah, I
Like,
hope the
that's like,
sacrifice I made inspires the next generation. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty wild.
I know. It's it's planting a seed.
How are you presenting to your kid? Like how, like, are you sort of consciously trying to present a certain way, even though you're feeling the ways you're feeling, or how are you interfacing with the little one?
Honestly, I think spending less time on my phone has been a really good move for my parenting.
Yeah.
Having him see me be on my phone less, my most woke, most well, the parents that have read the most parenting books or are the most like intuitive parent, like the people who think they're doing the best job, which is even me, I would say I think I'm doing a good job, are still on their phone a lot while their
Totally.
kid needs something from
Me
them.
too.
And
Yeah, it sucks.
it's so
Often the thing I need for them is on my phone, though, is the problem.
what do you need for them? Like, what's an example?
Whatever it is, like the Swiss Army knife nature of the phone is like what's killing me. Because like it is like it'll be like a schedule thing that has to like, oh, whatever, we have to make a birthday card. Who's it for this weekend? Oh wait, what's whose birthday? It's Autumn's birthday. Okay, yeah. So you know what I mean? Like I'm not getting that information from my brain anymore. It's like it's in the freaking phone somewhere. And yes, then there's all these distracting devices, or apps or whatever on there when you get on there, and that's the stuff you can't do. But they can't tell the difference whether you're like researching something for them, a recipe that they want to make or whatever it is, and
whether you're flipping through a TikTok,
snorting TikTok.
Yeah, it's true. They can't. I mean, it's broken. Just another joke. This is reminding me of from the late Louis C.K. He's not dead. He's just dead to a lot.
The part of him that we love.
The part of him that we love is dead. Yeah, but he had a joke about like how unfair it is that the place he goes to write, his computer, is also the place he goes to for porn. Like,
right.
How broken is that? How do you get anything done? Why does it need to all be in one place? What a confusing device this is.
Yeah. Like, not everything has to be a supermarket. Like,
it's hard, but I will say that, my screen time has gone down, and
that's good.
I think that, and even just being happier, which is a consequence of my screen time going down, makes me a better mom. Such a cliche, but happy moms matter, or, happier moms matter.
Totally. For me, it's, I have not been reducing my screen time, which is probably, so I'm going to steal that from you and just go ahead and start deleting those apps probably right after we get off this
I'm excited.
But, the thing that I've just been trying to do is get smaller.
What does that mean?
So what that means for me is just try to take, instead of looking everything in this macro lens, like start looking at things just like through a regular lens, meaning like less thinking about the nation as a whole and more thinking about the neighborhood I live in.
Yeah.
And like, what are the little things, like the kind of the weirdest blessing that I think happened to me was during the election, the same night, this place that I'm the HOA manager or president, as you probably know, and this I think I've complained on this podcast about. Yeah. But like we had a huge sewage issue that happened like in the middle of the night, and then all these like metaphors and jokes came out. But like it was like insane that happened the same night. But then I was like, I felt so good because I knew exactly what to do and how to fix it and help like all of my little buddies, like all my community, this little 7-person HOA was like, oh no, we can't use water. We can't. And I'm like, we have after hours numbers to call now. Like the property manager that I found has protocols for this. Like I knew, I just like knew what to do. And like, the board members that were there knew how to show up and like knew that they could pay for it and get reimbursed. No one was stressed. Like it was just like boom, boom, let's get this fixed. Like for our tenants, for our community. And it just felt like, okay, I just like saved a bunch of people's, nights from their house getting flooded with sewage. And I was like, that felt good. And so I was just thinking of other ways that I could do that. Like, how can I pitch in a little bit more at my son's school? How can I, just do something for my neighbor? I think just like you said, just the more face-to-face stuff. And, cause that stuff feels really, really, like you're affecting change where it matters, which is like in your sphere.
88% of the work week is spent communicating, so it's important your team does it well. Enter Grammarly. Grammarly's AI helps teams communicate clearly the first time. It shows you how to make words resonate with your audience, helps with brainstorming, and lets you instantly create and revise drafts in just one click. Join over 70,000 teams and 30 million people who use Grammarly to move work forward. Go to grammarly.com/enterprise to learn more. Grammarly. Enterprise-ready AI.
We talked about a lot in this episode, and I feel like it was a lot that you and I already practice. So I think we're now just like figuring out how to implement. It was a lot about like taking care of the kid. And I think right now we are in a place where we're like, yes, yes. And how do we also take care of us? How do we also like,
Yeah.
you and I are like constantly fighting off a cold. We're taking care of other sick family. My husband is sick in the other room right now. Your dad is sick on the other side of the country. We're managing a lot. And I think that's probably true for a lot of parents of little kids. And maybe the thing I would say now to wrap up this podcast is you're doing great. Your kid is doing fine. Your kid will be fine. It's okay to take some time to prioritize your own health and your own food and your own sleep and the things you care about. I'm just going to give everyone permission right now to take a little bit of the energy that we might put towards our work or we might put towards our kid and put it towards ourselves.
What's a fun thing that you could recommend that people do for self-care?
Well, the thing that I just started doing, and I'm doing it with a group of friends, which makes it way more fun, is The Artist's Way. Have you heard of this book?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Okay. So
Classic.
it's a classic. It's a classic. I've never finished it, and I've heard that finishing it is actually really good for your self-esteem.
Like an LA classic, I think.
Is it an LA classic? It's like it's got woo-woo elements, but I hear it's definitely got some woo-woo in it, but it is also in practice, one of the things that you do is you write for 3 pages every morning. And you could even set a timer. You could say, I'm going to write for 15 minutes stream of consciousness every morning. And that would be my recommendation. You don't have to do the artist way, but maybe set a timer for 15 minutes after you drop your kid off or before your kid wakes up to just get out what's in your head for 15 minutes or 3 pages, whatever you want. And that is a radical act of self-care because what it feels to me like I'm doing is taking the thoughts and the lists and the conversations that I am trying to hold and remember in my head, and it puts them on paper. And then also there's room for like random thoughts. So like, remember that memory when we were walking down Sunset and we found this dollar bill, and then that dollar bill ended up, like you just get to process things. And so much of parenthood is immediate response and survival. So that's my recommendation. What's your recommendation?
It always comes down to like journaling, exercise, which is great. But I love that it's like a specific prescription, to do 15 minutes every day. I never feel better than when I've written pages.
I know, same.
It always feels the whole day is set up for success when I do that. The thing that I have been doing is morning breath work. Oh God, sounds so human.
Oh my God, you almost made fun of me.
Yeah, no, and I deserve to be made fun of for this, but
no, I want to hear it.
It's just getting up in the morning, and the first thing I do is go outside, sit in the sun, and breathe for 10 minutes.
That sounds great. Are your eyes open or closed?
Closed. My eyes are whatever they want to be, but mostly closed. I'm mostly sitting palativa or crisscross applesauce, but you can also just do it lying on your back. There's tons of fun videos on YouTube if you want to, that are like really beautifully done. If you want to pop some earbuds in and follow something, I recommend Breathe with Sandy. If you want to see this like beautiful long-haired Fabio looking dude like on the beaches of Sao Paulo or wherever the hell he is, with just like his glistening pecs. It's a really well rendered like just breathing exercise workout thing. Not workout, but breath work. And he has, different things. He's good at guiding. He's got like nice visuals so you can breathe along, like really in sync, and good music. And yeah, I think it's just touching grass. That's what I'm doing in the morning.
Yes.
And like just trying to get in my body for a little bit and actually do this thing that I haven't really done in the 44 years of my life on Earth, but like genuinely try to sit in my emotions.
I love that. That's really hard. Both of the things we mentioned are free.
Yeah.
But impossible to do.
But impossible. Here, take this pill instead. It costs $400 a pill.
Yeah, exactly. It costs $400 a pill. You're like, I opt into the medication. Yeah, the medicated breath work. Thanks. Yeah, it is crazy that sometimes taking the time feels more expensive than the money, but it is necessary, and it is like a small investment in ourselves that makes us better parents, better partners, better people in the world.
Yeah.
Maybe does something nice to like decrease road rage. Who knows? That's wonderful. I'm gonna do that when we sign off.
Breathe with Sandy. And the last thing I'll say is, if you're feeling your feelings about the election and all that, maybe you can take the advice that my son gave us about the election.
Oh, what was that?
Well, I'll give you two things he said. One, he's like, well, if the man wins, Daddy, it'll be okay. It's going to be okay. Because we didn't want to go too far into it and like get him stressed out. But we were like, we're really rooting for Kamala. Like she'd be the first woman president. We're like all excited about this. And she's like, and we're like, the other one, he's a man. You don't have to worry about it. But we kind of feel like he's a bit cruel and mean sometimes. We don't want him to be our leader. And in the end, like on the day, he was just like, he was asking what was happening. He was interested. We showed him the electoral map and stuff like that. And he was like, if the man wins, it'll be okay, Daddy. It'll be okay. I was like, wow. So that, and then the thing that I think I've said on this podcast before, that if I ever get a tattoo, I will get a tattoo of, which that my son told me when he was 3.5, as I left the door, upset, angry, feeling out of control, feeling, scared about what I had to go do or whatever. He shouted out, "Don't forget what's pretend or real, Daddy." Because I just explained to him the concept of pretend and real, and he said, "Don't forget what's pretend or real, Daddy." And I just stopped in my tracks.
Wow.
And cried and then drove off to whatever audition or whatever the hell it was. And I was like, oh yeah, but that's what's really real.
Wow. Beautiful. What a brilliant little kid you got. I like him a lot.
I like
our
him
kids
too.
Played together this weekend and it was beautiful. I love when our kids play together.
Yeah, they're like buds.
They are buds. They're really good buds.
They're really like they're genuinely buds.
Your son is older than my son. So he's definitely like the leader. But my son is so happy to hang out. He's just like so happy to be invited.
So happy. Oh gosh. He's such a love.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really special seeing them like really get along and
it's really magical.
Get excited for each other. It's pretty cool.
Okay, I love you, bud. I'll talk to you soon.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye. Your Mom is a Podcast is hosted by Milana Weintraub and Sandeep Parikh. It is executive produced by Milana Weintraub, Sandeep Parikh, and Stephen Hine. Editing and sound design is by Sean Marr. Music by Matt Friedman. This podcast comes from Effin' Funny Productions and Story Mill Media. Be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram and TikTok at Your Mom is a Podcast.
You can sense it calling out to you.
New reality seeks you.
Join the journey to save Anomaly.
Place where sound is magic. The only way to enter the world is by looking inward.
Along the way, you'll learn potions, chants, and enchantments that will help you both in that reality and yours.
So, answer the call and let your campaign begin.
Featuring the voices of Ruth Connell from Supernatural and Dead Boy Detectives.
There are ordeals ahead, yet with guidance, you will face them head on without fear.
Todd Stashwick from Star Trek Picard and 12 Monkeys.
When the time arrives, wherever your journey takes you, be there with no attachments.
And R&B singer N.C. Gray.
There are worlds, realms, dimensions, and realities beyond yours.
Anomalies is a role-playing meditation podcast that takes you into a world of magic and fantasy. You'll be invited to imagine yourself in scenarios such as learning to cast a tranquility spell or exploring a land vanquished by a dragon, but all connected by a shared mythology. The goal of guided fantasy role-playing meditations are to help you cultivate a sense of wonder, curiosity, balance, and joy in your inner world. Role-playing meditation is a form of escapism and relaxation, as well as a creative outlet for the imagination. The first campaign is an introduction to the world of Anomaly, its lands, magic, and secrets. In the 8 chapters, you'll stretch your imagination, learn to center yourself, offer forgiveness, find confidence, relieve stress, and stop racing thoughts. Your true self will emerge, allowing you to manage your goals and dreams without confusion, distrust, or self-doubt. You can find it on Spotify, Apple, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Or visit seekanomaly.com to learn more. Anomaly spelled with an I-E, not a Y.
Seek Anomaly. Hear its magic.